Good morning, dear friends. You are welcome on my YouTube channel Biology by Dr. Jankar sir. Today we will discuss cell wall. Cell wall. Cell wall is only present in plant cells. So we can say it is present in plant cell but absent in animal cell. Present in plant cells and absent in animal cells. So you can say that this is the outer covering of plant cells. Outer covering of plant cell. Okay, I think you got it. The cell wall of plant cell wall is composed by mainly cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, and another substance like the cutin, lignin and suberin also present in composition of cell wall. So we can write that primarily plant cell composed by cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, but also have suberin, cutin and lignin in their composition. Okay, you got it. Suberin, what is the suberin? Suberin is a fatty substance. It is the mixture of fatty acid. What is the suberin? Suberin, it is the mixture of fatty acid. And what is cutin? Cutin is also a fatty substance but wax-like. So cutin is wax-like fatty substance. And lignin is a polysaccharide. What is lignin? Polysaccharide in their structure. Okay, so cell wall, it is present only in the plant cells. You can say that is the outer covering of the plant cells, and primarily plant cells composed by the cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, but secondarily suberin, cutin and lignin also present in their composition. What is the suberin? Suberin is the mixture of fatty acid, and cutin is also wax-like fatty substance, and lignin is polysaccharide in their nature. Now this is the introduction about cell wall. Now we will see the growth of cell wall. How cell wall growth. Okay, so now we will discuss growth of cell wall. There are two methods for growth of cell wall. So we can say that there are two method of growth of cell wall. Which are two methods? First is intussusception into susception. Another is apposition. Another is apposition. What is the meaning of interceptions? When cell wall material like the cellulose, hemicellulose, lignins are composed or deposit in the form of granules. This type of growth is known as interceptions. So we can write that the material of cell wall deposited in the form of granules known as interceptions. Example, the growth of primary cell wall. Growth of primary cell wall is the example of interceptions growth. So example is growth of primary cell wall. Growth of primary cell wall is the example of interception growth. Okay. Another method is apposition. In this method, the material of cell wall deposited in the form of layer. So we can write that the material of cell wall. Which are the material? Cellulose, hemicellulose, pectin, lignin, like that. So the material of cell wall are deposited in the form of layers. Known as apposition. What is the example of apposition? Apposition is growth of secondary cell wall. Growth of secondary cell walls takes place by both method, interception and apposition. The growth of secondary cell walls take place by both of two methods. So we can write that example of the apposition is growth of secondary cell wall. Growth of secondary cell wall. Growth of secondary cell wall take place by both of two methods. Which methods? Interceptions and apposition. So we can write the example of apposition is growth of secondary cell wall. So this is the growth about the cell wall. Now we will discuss structure of cell wall. Now we will discuss about the structure of cell wall. Structure of cell wall. Structures of cell wall. Cell wall composed by four parts. First is middle lamella, second is primary cell wall, third is secondary cell wall, and fourth is tertiary cell wall. So we will discuss one by one. First is middle lamella. You can say that this is the cells, this is the another cells, this is the part, this is the layer which is present between two cells. This is the part or this is the space present between two cells or layer which is present between one number cells and two number cells. That layer is known as middle lamella. So we can write that this is present between two cells. Okay. Middle lamella composed by calcium magnesium pectate. This is the composition of middle lamella. Middle lamella is composed by calcium magnesium pectate. Due to presence of middle lamella, it provides the rigidity or hard structure to raw fruits. After ripening of fruits, this middle lamella will be dissolved and provide the soft appearance to ripened fruits. So we can write that in middle lamella provide hard structure to raw fruits. Okay, you got it. Due to dissolving of middle lamella in ripened fruit, it provides soft appearance to ripened fruits. Okay, I think you got it. Middle lamella provide hard structure to raw fruits. During the ripening, middle lamella will be dissolved and provide soft appearance to ripened fruit. So this is about the middle lamella. Another part of cell wall is primary cell wall. Draw a diagram of cell wall. This one is S1, this one is S2, and this one is S3. This one is S1, S2. Okay, you can write P1, S1, another P1, P2, and P3, P1, P2, and P3. This is the space, or this is the layer which is present between two cells known as middle lamella. This is the middle lamella, and P1 or this P1 is known as primary cell wall. This P1 and this P1. This P2 and this P2 known as secondary cell wall, and P3, both P3 are tertiary cell wall. So this is the structure about cell wall. So we will consider next part, that is primary cell wall. Okay, you can say that primary cell wall present inner side of the middle lamella. This is the outer part. This is the outer side. If we will go from here to in this side, so we are going to away from cells. So this is the outer part and this is the inner part. So we can say that primary cell wall is present inner side of middle lamella. Both means in this cell also or in this cell also. So we can write that this layer is present inside or inner side of middle lamella, inner side of middle lamella in both sides. Okay, this layer is present inner side of middle lamella in both sides. Next point is that the primary cell wall is composed by cellulose, hemicellulose, and pectin. So we can write that this layer is composed by cellulose, hemicellulose, hemicellulose and lignin. Sorry, pectin. Cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. Okay, you got it. Primary cell wall is present on either side of inner side of middle lamella and composed of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin. Okay, and primary cell wall is thin and elastic structure. Thin and elastic in structure. Primary cell wall is thin and elastic structure. Okay, I think you got it. Another layer is secondary cell wall. Another layer is secondary cell wall. Secondary cell wall which is present inner side of primary cell wall. This is the primary cell wall and this is the secondary cell wall. So we can say that secondary cell wall is present inner side of primary cell wall. Third is secondary cell wall. Secondary cell wall means this layer present inner side of primary cell wall. Inner side of primary cell wall. Okay, I think you got it. Inner side of primary cell wall. It is composed by cellulose, hemicellulose and lignin. So we can write that composed by cellulose, hemicellulose and lignin. Cellulose, hemicellulose and lignin. But secondary cell wall is thick and non-elastic compared to primary cell wall. So this layer is thick and non-elastic in nature, but primary cell wall is thin and elastic in nature. So I think you got it. Okay, but in the meristemic cells which are the present in the plant devoid of secondary cell wall, in meristemic cells there are no secondary cell wall. There are no means absent. There are absence or no secondary cell wall. No secondary cell wall means in peristemic cells devoid of secondary cell wall. This is the about secondary cell wall. Now we will discuss tertiary cell wall. Now we will discuss about tertiary cell wall which is rarely present in cells. So this is the tertiary cell wall which is present inner side of secondary cell wall. Last one is tertiary cell wall means present inner side of secondary cell wall. Okay, it is composed by cellulose and xylem. Composed by cellulose and xylem. And this type of cell wall is rarely present in cell wall. Rarely present in cell wall. Mainly present in the tracheids of gymnosperm. Mainly it is present tracheids of gymnosperm plant. Gymnosperm plant. Gymnosperm plant. This is about the tertiary cell wall. I think you got it. I will repeat again. Okay. Tertiary cell wall means present in the inner side of secondary cell wall. First point. Second is composed by the cellulose and xylem. Third is rarely present. Means generally in cell wall, tertiary cell wall is absent. But in some example, for example, mainly it is present in the tracheates of gymnosperm plant. So this about structure of cell wall. I think you got it. Now we will discuss about ultrastructure of cell wall. Ultrastructure of cell wall. Ultrastructure of cell wall. Okay. The ultrastructure of cell wall mainly composed by two important content, that is the fibril and second one is matrix. The solid part of cell wall is fibril, composed by fibril, and liquid part of cell wall is composed by matrix. Okay, now we will discuss about fibrils. Matrix is the liquid part of the cells. Now we will discuss about fibril. In cell wall, there are so many fibrils. In cell wall, there are so many fibrils. There are so many fibril in their structure. Okay. Fibril is composed by macrofibrils. Means in one fibril there are so many macrofibrils. So we can write that fibril is made up by so many macrofibrils. Okay. And one macrofibrils is composed of 250 microfibrils. 250 microfibril. And one microfibril composed by 20 micelle. Composed by 20 micelle. And one micelle is composed by 100 chain of glucose, chain of cellulose, and one chain of cellulose composed by 3000 to 6000 glucose molecules which are binding with beta 1,4 linkage. So when one chain cellulose made up by 3000 to 6000 glucose molecule which are bind by beta 1,4 linkage. This is the ultrastructure of cell wall. Mainly cell wall composed by two structures. One is fibril, another is matrix. Matrix is the liquid part of cell wall. Now we will discuss about fibril. There are so many fibrils in the structure of cell wall. So fibril is one fibril is made up by so many macrofibrils, and one macrofibrils is made up by 250 microfibrils. One microfibril made up by 20 micelle, and one micelle is made up by 100 chain of cellulose and one chain of cellulose made up by 3000 to 6000 glucose molecules. Two glucose molecules are binds with a linkage that is known as beta 1,4 linkage. This one about the ultrastructure of cell wall. Now we will discuss another things. I think you got it. Another things, pits. Another point is pits. In cell wall, there are no regular deposition of lignin. There are no regular deposition of lignin. Some place is remaining without lignin, due to deposition of lignin. That left place, remaining place known as pits. You consider here, this is the cell, this is the deposition of lignin. This part, this is the circular part, and this is also circular part. In this part though, both number 1 and number 2, both part have no lignin, means in this part there are no deposition of lignin, so this part is known as pit. What is the pit? In cell wall, there are no uniform deposition of lignin. There in cell wall there are no uniform deposition of lignins. Some place left from deposition of lignin, and this remaining, this left part, some place left from deposition of lignin, and this left part is known as pits. This part, this remaining part is known as pit. The formation of pit in cell walls due to ununiformly, means not uniformly deposition of lignin. Due to the deposition of lignin, the place where the lignin is absent is known as pit. It is the very simple definition. The place in cell walls where the deposition of lignin is absent known as pit. Another about pit always present in pair. Pits are, another important point is pits are always present in pairs. By example, you can learn that this is the cell, this is the another cells. If in this cell here is the pit, then here will be pit, means pits are present in pairs. Okay. The membrane which separate one pit to another pit known as pit membrane. What is the pit membrane? What is the pit membrane? What is pit membrane? Definition of pit membrane is the membrane which separate one pit to another pit. One pit to another pit. Okay, I think you got it. Pit membranes. This is the membrane which separate one pit to another pit. Now we will study about the types of pit. There are two types of pit in cell wall. Classification of pits. There are two types of pits in cell wall. First is the simple pit. And another is the bordered pit. Bordered pit. Okay, I think you got it. Simple means the diameter of the pit in whole length is uniform. Very easy definition. You can say that this is the one cell or another is this cells. These are the two cells, number 1 cells and number 2 cells. One pit is here, another pit is here, another pit is here. If the diameter of pit in whole length is same, then this pit is known as simple pit. So we can define that the pit which have same diameter in their whole length known as simple pit. But in bordered pit, you can say this is the border pit. This is the diagram of bordered pit. Means the diameter of bordered pit is not uniform, is not same. So bordered pit diameter is increases from inside to outside. If you will go from inside to outside, then the diameter of bordered pit will be increased. So we can write that the bordered pit, the pit which have no same diameter. No, this is the important. The pit which have no same diameter in their whole length. This type of pit known as bordered pit. The pit which have no same diameter in their whole length known as the bordered pit. Means in this pit you can say that from inside to outside. Inside, this is the inside, and that this part is the outside. This is the inside, this is the outside. So we can say that inside to outside the diameter of bordered pit will be increased. So we can write that from inside to outside the diameter of this pit will be increased. This is the big difference between the simple pit and bordered pit. If the diameter is same on whole length, that is known as simple pit. If the diameter is not uniform, that is known bordered pit. In bordered pit, the diameter will be increased from inside to outside. So these are the difference of bordered pit. So you can say that this structure is known as pit membrane. Okay. In bordered pit, there is one thick structure between two bordered pit known as torus. So this is the structure. This is the structure known as torus. What is the torus? In bordered pit? This is thick. This is thick structure present between two bordered pit. What is the function of torus? It controls transportation of fluid and any material from one cell to another cells. So what is the function of torus? It controls transportation I will write here the function of torus. Here I will write function of torus. The function of torus is that it regulate transportation of different material from one cell to another cell. The function is that it regulates transportation of different materials which are transmitted from one cell to another cells. This is the main function of torus. So we can say that torus is working as a valve. You know, valve allow to water from one side to another side. So we can say that the torus is working as a valve. So we can say that torus working as a valve, which allow transporting of different material from one cell to another cell. So this is the about the fields. I think you got it. Now we will discuss two type of cavity in cell wall. Two type of cavity present in cell wall. First is cytogenous cavity, second is lysogenous cavity. So we will discuss cavity present in cell wall. First cavity is cytogenous cavity. Another is lysogenous cavity. What is the difference between two cavity? First is cytogenous cavity and another is lysogenous cavity. Cytogenous cavity is formed by the separation of two cells. You can say that these two cells are attached to each other. If both cells are separate to each other, this is the cavity which is formed by the separation of two cells known as cytogenous cavity. So this type of cavity is formed by separation of two cells. Example is the resin canals of pinus. What is the example of cytogenous cavities? A resin canal of pinus. This is the cytogenous cavity. Another is lysogenous cavity, means this cavity is formed by the lysis of two cell wall. So we can write that this cavity is formed by lysis of cell wall. Okay, I think you got it. What is the example of lysogenous cavity? So example is the oily gland of citrus fruit. Oil gland of citrus fruit. Oil gland of citrus fruit is the example of lysogenous cavity. Last one is the function of cell wall. The main function of cell wall is to provide protection to plant. Functions. What is the functions of cell wall? It provide protection to it provide protection to plant cell. Protection to plant cell. So friends, this is the about cell wall. Okay, now we will stop. Thanks.